Hi, everybody. Welcome to Great Books, Big Ideas. I'm Jim, and I want to talk to you today about Marcel Proust. I completed a major Marcel Proust book haul as of last week, and I want to share my finds with you. See if I can lift these. I finally completed the set of all the new translations of In Search of Lost Time. And I'll give you some background on this and how I scored some good deals with this. I'm going to backtrack and talk about my first encounters with Marcel Proust. I first tried to read Marcel Proust when I was in grad school, and I had these the old paperback. I don't have the copy anymore. It was sort of like roughly like a trade paperback size. With like a drawn illustration on the front. And I had Swan's Way. And I didn't make it past the overture, really. I mean, the first 30, 40 pages, I was absorbed with it. I was kind of fascinated by it, but I just found it too difficult. I wasn't ready to read it. And somewhere down the line, I got rid of that copy. And then much later, years later, I came into possession of the C. Scott Moncrief translations of all the books, all the volumes in remembrance of things past. Swan's Way, Within a Budding Grove, The Guermantes Way, Cities of the Plain, The Captive, The Sweet Cheek Gone, and The Past Recaptured. And when I revisited Proust, I forget when this was. I was either in my late 20s or early 30s. I did get through Swan's Way, and then I started the next one, Within a Budding Grove, is how Moncrief translates it. And somewhere down the line, I would be in and out of Proust. It took me many, many years to read the whole thing. But the second volume, Within a Budding Grove, something really started to click for me there. I really liked that book. And then I got to the Guermantes Way, and I generally would read over the summer, which while working, like I have summers off, and that's when I get a ton of my reading done. And you need time to dig into Marcel Proust. It's just, he just demands attention. There's long, long sentences and paragraphs, so intricate. Such a fascinating writer. I think he's one of the great writers of the century and of all time. And he is an acquired taste for sure. But I got to the Guermantes Way, and to me, that's the toughest novel amongst all the volumes. There's a lot in there about the aristocracy, and I can't go on into all of it. But it was a slog. It was a slog. But then you get to the end of that book, and I hope this isn't a spoiler alert for anyone, but like the grandmother dies, and there's a very touching, moving scene that the book ends with. And then I got back on the Proust train. But a few years ago, I read basically the Cities of the Plain, The Captive, The Sweet Cheek Gone, and The Past Recaptured. I think I read them all in one summer. This was maybe like 5, 6 years ago, 7 years ago. And I just kept going, and I just was loving everything I was reading. You get into all the Albertine books, and just great stuff. And I got to the point where I realized, like, if I keep pace here, I keep reading this book, I read like 20, 30 pages a day, I'm going to read the whole rest of it. And I did. And it was one of the great reading achievements of my life to have said, like, I read Proust. I loved it. And as soon as I finished it, I said, I'm going to reread it. There's no doubt in my mind, if I have enough years left in my life, I will reread this book, hopefully more than one time. In the meantime, there's a whole slew of new translations that Penguin has published over the years, and it's under the. These are Penguin Classics Deluxe editions with deckled edges, and they commissioned different translators to do these, and now they're calling the book In Search of Lost Time. Some people think the C. Scott Moncrief translations in his Edwardian prose maybe aren't quite faithful to what Proust French sounds like, and these are more modern translations that are attempting to just a different presentation of Proust. I think the C. Scott Moncrief, as a translation by itself, is a classic of translation is what I'm trying to say. But I sure wanted to read it again in these new translations, just because it's going to be fun to see like how the translations go differently. And there's different translators for the different volumes. So they did not use the same person for every book. So I got this. I might have gotten it new. I think I might have gotten it at Chester County Books back in the day, and I very much like these cover designs too. And I got this one. I haven't read it yet. I haven't started it. It's on my to-do list. But I thought, okay, I'm going to try to collect these, all the rest of them in this series, this Penguin Classics Deluxe series, the deluxe editions. So somewhere along the line, not long after that, I think I got this used on eBay. This is the second volume, In the Shadow of Young Girls in Flower. And this is translation. Oh, by the way, the translation of Swan's Way is by Lydia Davis. In the Shadow of Young Girls in Flower is translated by James Grieve. Isn't that lovely? Love that. And then the Guermantes Way. Well, okay, let me stop there. So for years, I'd say the last 4 or 5 years, those are the only 2 volumes I've had on the bookshelves, and they haven't been read yet. And I thought, well, I'll just keep my eye out for the other ones. I don't want to pay too much for these volumes because I'm not a wealthy man, and I have to be careful about my book buying addiction. So I thought I'll keep my eye out on eBay and other sources, and maybe things will crop up on the used market. And time went by, and I just didn't see anything, at least not at a price point that I wanted to pay for. So after that, very recently, I came into, through my job, my work, I teach college. I frequently get these offers from publishers for me to complete surveys. Like they want to learn more about the courses you teach and the books, the textbooks that they want to design and so forth. So I'll get these offers to complete surveys, questionnaires. And they give you an incentive. It'll be like, hey, you can get a $25 Amazon gift card if you fill out the survey. Or you get the idea. Well, I did one of these. I usually would do them because, hey, that goes into the account and I can pay for books or records or items on Amazon. Well, one I did a few months ago, they offered a $75 Barnes & Noble gift card. So I did that one immediately, filled out the survey, and a couple months later they said, here's your code and you can register it and add it to your Barnes & Noble account. So I had $75 sitting in there, and I thought, well, what could I spend it on? And a couple weeks ago I thought, you know what, maybe I can get these other Proust volumes, and that'll add up to $75. So what I did was I was going to get all of them, but they were adding up. And I thought, let me just get these 3. And I used up my $75 in store credit. And I think I paid a few extra bucks for it. So I got basically these books for virtually free. And these are brand new. And then I said I was going to get them all on Barnes & Noble, but it would have added up to be like over $100. So I thought, let me see what's out there on eBay, and I was able to track down the other two volumes, The Guermantes Way and Finding Time Again. You can see this one's an ex-library book, and this one, what was the library? Emma S. Clark Memorial Library in Setauket, Long Island, New York. There we go. Otherwise, it's very clean. And then the Guermantes Way is also used, and it looks pretty good, but you can see there's some sort of buckling of the pages in there. So this isn't perfect, but beggars can't be choosers. Anyway, I got these, and I also got a Lawrence Durrell novel, his first novel, I believe, called The Black Book. And that was like super affordable. I forget what it added up to. It was maybe like $25 or something. So for roughly like a little in the low 30s, I got all the rest of the Proust books, and now I feel like I'm ready to explore these books. And maybe this summer I'll start in on my reading project and see how Proust reads in a fresher translation. It's going to be exciting. To go over the other translations, Guermantes Way is a translator. The translator is Mark Treherne, I think. Yeah, Mark Treherne. Sodom and Gomorrah, translated by John Sturrock. The Prisoner, translated by Carol Clark. The Fugitive, translated by Peter Collier. And Finding Time Again, translated by Ian Patterson. So each book has a different translator. It's going to be exciting to go back in and see what that's all about. So that's my major Proust haul. I'm so excited that I finally, after years, have completed the selection, which has these really fine covers. I don't know, sometimes like cover design makes a difference. And these are, they have the flaps and so forth, and the deckled edges. And it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun to dig into these again. I'm ready. I'm ready to start back into Proust. Have you ever read Proust? What are your thoughts? He is not everyone's cup of tea, but I just think he is worth it. Like, he's worth the effort. There's just something amazing about this writer that really speaks to me. I'll tell you another story about how I first got interested in Proust. And this is a weird story. It goes all the way back to the very early days of cable television, or at least when my family got cable television. It must have been around 1980, like early 80s, let's call it. And we had the cable box with the push buttons and all that. And back then there was the channel Arts and Entertainment, now known as A&E. Is that channel still out there? I think it is. But back then, it truly was more of an arts channel. It reminded you a lot of PBS, and there was lots of like, quote, high art stuff with classical music and literature and dramatizations and very interesting talk shows and jazz. And it was a cool channel. And one time I was watching that channel, and at the end of some program, I forgot what it was, there was just a little tag, a little filler, like before the next program started, because I don't think they were running like TV commercials. They weren't running ads yet. So they would have this little space to fill up. And they had this like a dramatization, and it was just sort of outdoor. I think it was, as I remember, it was like an outdoor party on a lawn, and it was a dramatization of Proust, in remembrance of things past. And you see these people, like these very sort of fine aristocratic people, like in their, in their nice clothes outside, sort of like having tea or drinking or whatever they were doing. And the voiceover was uh, reading from a passage from the novel. And this, whoever was reading did a great job reading it. And this went on for maybe like 1, 2, 3 minutes, no more than that. And I was really captivated by the writing, and I didn't know what part of the book was being dramatized. I didn't know anything about Proust back then. They must have put it on a title card at the end or something. And I thought, but something stuck. I thought, I'm going to come back to that writer. I like what I'm hearing. I like that style. I like how deeply involved it is, how intricate. And I just have to, I bookmarked it in my head, right? Well, it so turns out, I'm not going to give away the ending of In Search of Lost Time, but I'm pretty sure what was read in that little clip I watched so many years ago was the very final scene in the novel, or close to the end, was like from the end of the book. And I definitely won't spoil that for you. But when I got to the end of Remembrance of Things Past, and the past recaptured, I realized that that's it. That's where it started. So I started at the end, and in my end is in my beginning. So that just goes to show you. Anyway, that's my Proust haul. They're all here now. I'm going to have a lot of reading to do. Have any of you read these deluxe Penguin editions of In Search of Lost Time? Any thoughts, any guidance you can give me? I'd love to hear your comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon with another video. Thanks.